You know, some people have a difficult time when I refer to the president as the white supremacist in chief because they find it difficult to accept that Donald Trump is just a racist. Others try to dismiss it away as a gross generalization in the form of, you call everyone a racist, Ben. Everyone's a racist to you. But when I call Trump the white supremacist in chief, it's based on a large body of evidence that dates back decades. Trump has been a bigot for a very long time. Take a listen to this clip from October of 1993.
I'll tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like to Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians, and a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
This was in 1993, declaring for the purposes of getting an advantage in the casino business that a certain group of people didn't look like, quote, Indians to him. And listen to his language of, this may not be politically correct. Trump has been using the excuse of being anti-political correctness to cover for his bigotry before that was even a thing, before it was all the rave. I mean, he mastered the art of dog whistle and overt racism before most millennials were even born. There is a vast body of evidence that explains perfectly why Donald Trump finds it difficult to condemn Nazis and white supremacists. Consider the 1973 federal lawsuit brought against Trump, his father, and his company for racial discrimination at Trump housing developments in New York City. Trump would later go on to settle the case. Consider his involvement with the Central Park Five. In 1989, Trump spent $85,000 of his personal fortune to run a full-page ad in major New York publications calling for the return of the death penalty and to, quote, bring back our police. This was during the controversy and the fear that gripped the city after 5 teenagers from Harlem were accused of assaulting and raping a white woman in Central Park. And even after their sentences were vacated based on DNA evidence, and even after a serial rapist confessed to the crime himself, Donald Trump refused to apologize to the men whose lives he helped destroy. Trump has been a bigot for a very long time. And today, many people try to separate Trump from the white nationalists and white supremacists who support him. But in reality, they are one and the same. The reason white supremacists love Donald Trump is because he is and has always been a white supremacist. But that begs the question, how could a man drenched in white supremacy get so far in America, besides the obvious fact that America is built on white supremacy? Donald Trump's wealth has provided a cosmopolitan veneer that causes his wealth to be seen above and beyond his bigotry. Simply put, we as Americans see racism as a problem of poor white people only. We see racism as a problem of the lower class. When we see a billionaire, we believe that they are wealthy because they are more intelligent or more enlightened or more refined. But think about that logic. It wasn't poor white men who owned slaves and used racism as a means of keeping poor white men in check. It was plantation owners. It was the wealthy white men who benefited most from white supremacy. And in that way, the President of the United States is very much like a plantation owner. Money has only disguised his bigotry. And this is why Oprah Winfrey would interview him in the 80s as though he was merely a billionaire playboy businessman and not the raging bigot that he was. And I love Oprah. This is why the Clintons would attend his wedding to Melania despite his history, his long history of being a bigot, because wealth in America disguises the raging white supremacy of some of the richest people in the world. And this is why, despite his racist baggage, he would continue to get contracts with NBC, Universal, Macy's, and any number of corporations who thought that they could make money off of his name. This is sadly why today, despite Trump's history, despite his inability to condemn white supremacists, and despite his racist language against immigrants and people of Middle Eastern descent, and even despite his racist slurs against Senator Elizabeth Warren, derogatorily referring to her as Pocahontas. Despite all of that, some people find it difficult to just admit that Trump is a raging bigot. The moral of the story is simple. Trump's wealth may disguise for some the fact that he is a racist, but Donald Trump's portfolio of bigotry throughout the entirety of his life speaks louder than any money he can own. But even more importantly, we as Americans must absolutely stop giving bigots a pass simply because they are rich and wealthy or because they have a level of wealth of which we can only dream. People must change the fact that whenever they think of bigotry, they think of the trailer park and not the country club. Wealth does not mean someone works harder or is smarter or is somehow more noble. And the best example of that, indeed, is our very own white supremacist in chief, President Donald J. Trump. I'm Benjamin Dixon, and this is Content.News, news where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it.